All right, so welcome. It is with deep gratitude and great pleasure that we are all here for today's Soul Sovereignty Series event. The Soul Sovereignty Series is a virtual Black August fundraiser hosted by Community Healing Network. Community Healing Network is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to mobilize Black people across global Africa to heal from the trauma caused by centuries of anti-Black racism, to free ourselves of toxic stereotypes, and to reclaim our dignity and humanity as people of African ancestry. In hosting the Soul Sovereignty series, our intention is to elevate our incarcerated kin and their emotional healing as we explore global Africa's need for emotional emancipation as a whole. Our goal is to raise $5,000 for the third and fourth round of emotional emancipation circles at Pendleton Correctional Facility in Pendleton, Indiana. Emotional emancipation circles are self-help support groups designed to help heal and end the trauma caused by anti-Black racism, the centuries-old lie of white superiority and Black inferiority. As the search for more sustainable revenue continues, we would like to thank everyone here and all of our supporters as a whole for their presence, energy, and contributions as we've eclipsed 20% of our fundraising goal by today. As we settle in and transition, please help me welcome Jessica Ann Mitchell Aiwuyor. Jessica Ann Mitchell Aiwuyor is a reparationist and cultural communication specialist based in the Washington, D.C. area. Jessica is a descendant of enslaved Africans and Maroons in Georgia and South Carolina. And as we were talking yesterday, I found out that she's also a descendant of the Dakar people in present-day Cameroon. In her past role as the Associate Director of Communications at the National Fair Housing Alliance, Jessica spearheaded strategic communications for federal housing discrimination lawsuits against Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, and Facebook. She also led communication efforts in the National Fair Housing Alliance's federal lawsuit against the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development concerning the affirmatively furthering fair housing rule. Jessica is the founder and the leader of the National Black Cultural Information Trust. The NBCI Trust, is a Pan-African initiative that uses communications, media, and cultural storytelling to share information and resources that correct and challenge cultural misinformation and disinformation surrounding racial ethnic identity, anti-Blackness, and other false narratives that harm our communities. In addition to her work with national organizations and firms, Jessica serves as the communications chair for the Pan-African Congress, the North American delegation. She's a member of the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America and a member of the Case for Reparations Advisory Committee, an initiative led by Liberated Capital's Decolonizing Wealth Fund. As an author and cultural storyteller, her writings about African-American cultural heritage and ethnicity have been published and cited across a wide range of publications, including Huffington Post, The Business Insider, MSNBC, LA Progressive, and TV One's News One Now. She publishes books celebrating Black life and culture with her publishing company, Our Legacy Press. If you all can offer a round of applause. And, oh, wonderful, I actually heard some. As we welcome Jessica, feel free to unmute yourself and the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me join you all's discussion today. Jabari, I forgot to ask how much time I have because I don't want to go over. So how much time do I have?
This scheduled time is till 1 p.m.
Okay.
Oftentimes people may present over. We might have folks who stay on a little bit longer than that too.
Okay, great. All right. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Bear with me because technology is not my friend. Give me just a second. Ugh. and I'm using not the presentation mode that I wanted to because the other one was not working for me. But can you see my screen now? Can you see the whole thing well? Okay, great. All right. So again, thank you so much for inviting me to speak. As Jabari was saying, some of the work that we do at NBCI Trust is challenging cultural myths and disinformation. And this conversation is going to be about how disinformation and misinformation has become kind of intertwined within the reparations movement. So this discussion is titled Reparations and Cross-Cultural Unity in the Age of Disinformation. Let me make my thing a little bit smaller so all the letters are showing. Exploring themes of concern impacting the reparative justice movement. I have a lot of slides, so I'm going to try to condense this in order to be able to take questions and not have y'all go over too much. Oppressors cannot afford the luxury of educating an oppressed people. If people are truly educated, they will find a way out of their oppression. Those are words from Dr. John Henrik Clarke. And some similar statements have been made by Dr. Carter G. Woodson in The Miseducation of the Negro. And what I like to say about what's happening now is back then it was the miseducation of the Negro, and now it's the misinforming of the Negro, using mis and disinformation to cause issues in our community. Like I was saying earlier, and this is currently happening in the reparations movement. So just an overview about authentic varying points concerning reparations in the Black community. Oftentimes when we have discussions about reparative justice, they center on these core questions. Should we advocate for repair? Some think we should, some think we shouldn't. Overwhelmingly, the majority of Black Americans think we should. Are reparations possible in America? Most of us think we should advocate for reparations, but according to research, many Black Americans don't feel like we're ever going to really get it. Who owes reparations? Most of us agree that the United States of America owes reparations. Who deserves or are owed reparations? So that's another kind of question that we grapple with. Who among us deserves this repair? And should reparations be implemented at all? That goes back to the first point. Should we advocate for repair? Most of us agree that it should be implemented. Some of us disagree. But these are like authentic questions that we've grappled with over the centuries about reparative justice and seeking overall repair for ourselves and our communities. But what has happened recently, really beginning with the years leading up to the 2020 election, is that there has been inauthentic activity entering into Black spaces, trying to divide or push us one way or the other in a way that just is not authentic to our conversations that we were already having, but for also malicious purposes. So the 2020 election is when we really see the hashtagging of reparations. This is on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all these different platforms. There's a researcher and a activist leader named Shireen Mitchell, and she is the executive director of Stop Online Violence Against Women. In the years and months coming up to the 2020 election, Mitchell's research unveiled the usage of reparations terminology in online disinformation and Black voter suppression efforts. So I'm sharing a few things directly from her research and the report that her organization put out. It was titled "A Threat to an American Democracy, Digital Voter Suppression, a Key Influence in the 2020 Elections." She identified 5 current, at the time, campaigns that were happening leading up to the election. And they all kind of centered around reparations or not voting or walking away from either the Democratic Party in order to completely not vote or vote Republican. And again, we have Black conservatives in our community. That's not the issue. The issue is seeking certain entities online, seeking to manipulate people for their own reasons. So she identifies them. There are 5 current campaigns. The key issue areas include reparations, criminal justice, climate change, and immigration. These campaigns also focus on telling Black voters not to vote for Democrats. Some of the quotes used include no Black agenda, no vote, or tangibles or no vote. They are not making the same demands of Republicans or independent candidates. And then they go on in their report to say, although many of the tactics may change, the overall outcomes are the same: the targeting of Black voters to win elections. Digital voter suppression is used mostly through social networking platforms. The use of reflexive control, or psych ops, is the strategy. Reflexive control. Control the reflexive of the opponent by creating a certain model of behavior in the system it seeks to control. The most fundamental way to do this is to locate the weak link in the system and exploit it through moral arguments, psychological tactics, and appeals. Psych op are operations to convey selected information and indicators to audiences to influence their emotions, motives, and objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of governments, organizations, groups, and individuals. So this type of targeting was happening directly towards the Black community to get us to vote less or to feel as if it's not worth it to vote. And what the targets were using was reparations, hashtag no tangibles, no vote, hashtag ADOS, hashtag Blexit at the time, hashtag tangibles, Black voices for Trump, hashtag walk away. These are different things that were used to try to manipulate Black audiences online. Another tactic that was used that Mitchell's work indicates is the immigration part of it. So there was a component of nativism added to it to really kind of agitate the Black American feelings towards immigrants. And it wasn't towards European immigrants, which is the largest group among the largest group of immigrants. It was specifically towards Black and brown immigrants. And if you know anything about the immigration system, our immigration system is already very racist. So African immigrants are among like the smallest amount that actually get in, Caribbean immigrants, etc. There's a research that was done, and this research article came out the year after the 2020 election. And it was called Divisive Social Movement on Social Media Examining Hashtag ADOS. This exploratory study examined Twitter content addressing the controversial social advocacy movement, American Descendants of Slavery. We collected 1.7 million tweets using the hashtag ADOS. A sample of these were qualitatively placed in categories: galvanizing support for ADOS, divisive support for ADOS, attack ADOS, and unrelated. Tweets were also categorized as nativist or not nativist. Findings showed that more than half of the tweets using hashtag ADOS had a divisive character, and nearly 10% were overtly nativist. So to go more into inauthentic activity, there are genuinely people, and I want to emphasize this, that we all have our different beliefs. But sometimes there are entities online that boost a particular belief over others for a specific purpose, whether it be to sow divisions, whether it be to get us not to vote as much. And this inauthentic activity was documented and researched, and also various social media accounts had to take action during this time. So I just put some screenshots of some of the articles that came out in either 2020 or the years leading up to 2020. So, for example, there were fake Twitter accounts posing as Black Trump supporters. They reached thousands of people. They were pushing out this messaging of walk away from the Democratic Party, don't vote for them, vote for Republicans, or don't vote at all. Or, these accounts were fake, but they were using various images of Black faces. They were using Black people with names. And so you would think that is a real person that's tweeting and talking, and they would have 50, 60,000 followers, real people following them, along with bots boosting the account. But this had an actual influence, and Twitter had to take action to delete some of these accounts. We don't even know how many actually existed. Then there was, at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, fake Black Lives Matter pages. This is an article about the biggest Black Lives Matter page on Facebook. At that time, it had, I don't even know, maybe up to 1 million, over 500,000 followers on Facebook. It had raised, I believe, up to at least $100,000. If not this account, but another one was getting people to show up in person to locations, like telling them, oh, we're going to protest here. And people would actually show up, not knowing these accounts were not controlled by Black people. They were not who they said they were. So our communities have been very vulnerable to this activity because we're being micro-targeted. The Trump campaign, and let me just back up. Who is doing this? Comes from a lot of places. Now, State Department says Russia. Okay, it could be Russia. Also, some people think it's Chinese interference. There's also very good evidence to know this is an internal interference too. There are white supremacists on Discord accounts saying that they are going, and Media Matters covered this, they were saying they were going to create fake blackface accounts using the hashtag ADOS and using various other hashtags to cause more friction and more divisions. So it's coming from a lot of different places. Okay, so there's also micro-targeting that was done by Cambridge Analytica that Trump campaign hired, and they were successful. They purchased ads on Facebook and various social media accounts. They could micro-target folks down to where they lived, what profession they were in, what type of personal attitudes or beliefs that they had in order to sway them not to vote. And there was an entire documentary that came out about it on a British network, Channel 4. And please watch that when you get a chance. They micro-targeted a specific community in order to make sure that the vote went to Trump, and it did. And they were able to successfully decrease the amount of Black voter participation in that area through the micro-targeting. So a lot of the research right now, or the discussions about this thing that is happening, it occurs around the Black vote, which is very important. But another part that folks often are not discussing is it also attacks Black collective activism by pushing for divisions, by doing the anti-Black immigrant rhetoric. Is causing friction among Black communities to where it could impact Pan-Africanism, impact Black collective activism, impact efforts to unify around specific social justice issues impacting all of our communities. So again, the nativism and divisiveness I just talked about, ABC News has talked about this. with ADO's Business Insider Africa has talked about this with the foundational Black American issue. And what is happening is there are some real conversations happening within our communities, but then there are also inauthentic activity and bots pushing conversations which way and the other. And then there's also just social media influencers that don't care what happened to any of our communities, but they just are happy to be getting all these views so they can make money off of controversy. So there are a number of current disinforming narratives that have targeted the reparations movement or been infused in the current reparations movement. And these disinforming narratives seek to do a number of things, or are doing a number of things. One of them is disconnect the US reparations movement from the global movement. There's been a concerted effort to try to make our struggle for reparations completely separate from the struggle in the Caribbean, the struggle on the continent, the struggle in Europe, where there are Black British advocating for reparations as well. And we know through decades and decades of reparative justice advocating that it has taken a global coalition to really move this movement to where it has gotten today. Doesn't mean we all, are petitioning to the same governments or that we're erasing each other or anything. Is that we have collectively come together to learn from each other, to gain insights from each other, and to support each other's work to move the reparations movement forward. But current disinforming narratives are trying to separate that overall approach. There's been an effort to disconnect reparations from African ancestry, where it'll be said that we're not African Americans because we haven't been to Africa in 400 years. So why would we use the word Africa? Or we're not Black Americans. We shouldn't use Black. Why don't we just call ourselves American descendants of slavery, or U.S. chattel slave descendants, or let's call ourselves freedmen. Let's call ourselves anything but an indicator of our African ancestry. And again, there are some people that genuinely feel this way, but in relation to the 40 million Black Americans, it is a very small number for the amount of publicity it gets, which indicates inauthentic activity boosting these narratives. There's been a disinforming narrative on limiting eligibility for reparations to chattel slavery. Again, this is also tied to a lack of institutional knowledge and misinformation overall about the reparations movement, which is why it's able to cause confusion. People that have been in the reparations movement a long time know about certain lawsuits that have been thrown out that says statute of limitations. And so made a specific effort to make sure that Jim Crow is included when we're talking about reparations and or modern day systemic racism. Because some of the laws and some of the past lawsuits have already said statute of limitations, even though we fight anyway against unjust laws. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try to get reparative justice for chattel slavery, but it's just as a safeguard. And because we do need reparations for Jim Crow, we include these things. Limiting eligibility for reparations to chattel slavery just poses a number of key issues, and that statute of limitations is one of them. Hyper focusing on cash payments as reparations is another disinforming narrative. Now, the majority of us want a good check. The majority of us want that. Nobody is saying if you hand me $50,000 or whatever, not saying that that is an accurate number or anything. I'm just throwing something out there. Very few people are saying they don't want that. But also, when actual research has come up, like the Pew Research Center interviewed Black Americans on what we want for reparative justice, and the vast majority said housing, education, criminal justice reform, health. Cash was almost always number 4 or 5 on the list. But online, the push is cash payments. Now, why is that? Because it's the hardest one to possibly attain. And so when people don't instantly get that, it is meant to deter them from having hope. It's meant to engender hopelessness, which is meant to make people not want to participate in the political process, and meant to make people just kind of lethargic and not wanting to move forward, feeling as if all hope is lost if a cash payment is not made. That is currently happening with the California issue, with California reparations. The media is complicit in a lot of this because they take complex issues and oversimplify it. The California Reparations Task Force repeatedly said, we're not giving out a number. We are not giving out a number for what we think reparations should be. But every time the economists discuss just their estimates for what things could have been, like the amount of money that would have possibly set back a Black family with housing discrimination, the media would take these numbers and put the headline, California families could be eligible for $350,000 each. And it was inaccurate, but they didn't care because it also got them clicks. But now with Gavin Newsom not saying anything, refusing to go on the record to advocate for cash reparations, there's already a sentiment among some people that the movement in California has failed. And it has not, it's really just begun. Also incorporating anti-immigrant rhetoric into the reparations movement. I spoke to that earlier. I already talked about the chattel slavery point. The other point was we must change our names to get reparations. That's a disinforming narrative. People telling people that, oh, well, it won't, if we go to the Supreme Court, we can't say we're African American. We can't say that we're Black American. We have to use a whole nother name, completely erase the Blackness or Africanness from the conversation. And Justice Ketanji Brown has a different opinion on that. And also, it's just not accurate. The reason why we haven't gotten reparations yet is not because we're using the wrong name or our ancestors misidentified themselves. This country always knew it owed us. It's because of white supremacy that we don't have reparations yet today, and why the struggle is long. Then there's another really concerning component that is mostly popular on YouTube and TikTok, which is transatlantic slave trade denialism, where there are people that I believe suffering from internalized Afrophobia that outright deny that they are the descendants of Africans or enslaved Africans or even enslaved African Americans. They're claiming to be the original Israelites or the original Native Americans, and they will look exactly like me and say they have no African ancestry, and do long videos trying to disconnect themselves from African ancestry and claim that the transatlantic slave trade never happened or didn't happen in the way that we're taught. And so that is very concerning because some people really are believing this, and those videos are getting millions of views, and the content creators are Black, but they know they can make a lot of money from this. And so there is no checks and balances happening right here on some of the platforms. And so they're able to get away with it. So what is the reason? With the inauthentic activity happening to dissuade the Black vote or make people angry at Black immigrants or do transatlantic slave trade denialism, right-wingers support some of these narratives because it leads to Black American isolationism and weakens our ability to build Black movements locally and globally. And then there are anti-immigration groups that would love for Black Americans to advocate for the limitation of Black immigration, simply because these groups are really interested. They say they care about us getting jobs, but they're really interested in slowing down the browning of America. And they use the plight of Black Americans to gain Black support to do it, to keep America white. That's not what they will say. They will say is, oh, Black Americans will get more jobs if there are fewer immigrants, which the data doesn't suggest that. But really, they use these narratives to try to get us to go along with their plan to stop the browning of America. There are some people, again, that have a genuine belief for this, but overwhelmingly, it is such a small number among us 40 million. And there are some that promote these narratives simply to gain influence. And when I say some, I'm talking about other Black people. One of the masterminds behind this type of plan is John Tanton. He is known as the father of the anti-immigration movement. And what he did was something very smart. He created or funded organizations that on the surface seem very progressive. But if you just dig a little deeper, you'll see that they have white supremacist leanings, that they have an underbelly that is very much anti-Black, anti-African. But they will pick and work with certain Black people to bolster their narratives. One of them is Progressives for Immigration Reform. One of the co-founders of the ADOS movement was on the board of that organization, which is a part of the John Tanton Network. And this isn't new, though. They've been doing this for decades. In 2006, they had a group called Choose Black America, pushing this narrative again of the Black Americans versus the immigrants. And these people were very much white nativists and white supremacists. They never cared about Black America. They cared about using us to push their narrative. Ann Coulter, if you may be familiar with her, she's a conservative commentator, and sometimes she actually does work on strategy for the conservative movement. And she writes these articles trying to pull us in and get Black Americans on board the replacement theory, which has been debunked. But she has written articles. They're replacing you, Black America. The Great Replacement Switcheroo. This is a conservative white woman that has shown herself to be anti-Black again and again. She does not care about Black America, but she does care about stopping the browning of America. And if she can get our support in doing it, she'll take it. So what can we do? Knowing that we're under attack, knowing that this is happening consistently online to Black communities, one of the things that we can do is promote healthy cross-cultural dialogue. And I ran out of time, but if I was to show one book that I think all Black people should read, especially of the Black Atlantic, it would be How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney, because it really lays out what happened to our ancestors and why and how our struggles are interconnected, and how the oppression that we currently face is also interconnected, and some of the steps that we can do to move forward as a people. Walter Rodney was a Guyanese scholar and activist. Please read How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. That is one of my book recommendations that I would suggest. Education on media literacy and social media literacy. Now, there has been a lot of talk, especially with the Trump administration, with his fake news mantra. He made that terminology famous. There's been a lot of talk about the need for media literacy, understanding what is real news, which platforms can you actually trust. I've seen a number of things go viral online in the Black community that are coming directly from right-winger websites, but because the websites are dressed neatly and they look real, people are not going and scrolling to the bottom and reading the name of the company that owns it or the person that runs it. And if you do, you'll find that they have connections to conservative movements. The platform that has gotten in trouble for this the most has been the Shade Room. It's a Black gossip website. Multiple times they have run fake stories, not realizing that they got it from a bad source. They just got it from it because they don't have good media literacy among their staff. And then later they will have to go back and issue a correction or take the post down. But also, in addition to media literacy, there needs to be social media literacy, understanding that everything that you see online, every person that you see online isn't actually real. Now, before we were dealing with Twitter accounts, but now we got AI. And it was simple for the Twitter accounts to just take a Black person's photo, put up a face, put up a fake name, and go. AI, there's a particular account right now that was getting millions of views on Instagram, and it was a beautiful Black woman, but she wasn't real. And a lot of the viewers could not tell that this woman was not real. Now imagine that during an election, putting up, pro this and pro that rhetoric. It's very dangerous. And on TikTok, you don't need a face, you don't need a name, you don't need anything. You could just put pictures of music and have an automated voice and go. And those accounts are getting hundreds of thousands of views and millions of views. So as a part of social media literacy, we have to show people where to go to get news. We have to show people, have to let people know that they can't always believe anything or everything that they see online. That if you do have time, which a lot of us don't, but if you do, try to fact check, try to find a reliable source like a university library's website. A lot of them have LibGuides. Try to stick to news that you recognize. And it doesn't have to be CNN. There are a number of Black owned newspapers that you can go to their website to verify. So those are things that we have to get people to do. Also, stop automatically sharing something because, people will say, well, they saw something, it went viral, and they'll say, is this true? And they'll just share it and keep sharing it. And before you realize it, a narrative has gone around the world and but by the time you get to stop it, the same people that heard it never hear the counter story or never hear the real story or the truth. So stop sharing stuff that you don't know for sure if it's real. Just don't engage. Look it up before you share. There's digital blackface, which is the usage of fake accounts using Black faces or images. There's online manipulation, trying to get us to think in a specific way. And there is digital targeting of Black communities through ads or hashtags or videos or different posts. And I know you all are already doing it, but we have to promote robust Black history and education, specifically of the Black Atlantic and the Pan-African world, to also cut down on confusion. And this can be done a number of ways, through workshops, through trainings, through sharing books, through making your own social media posts about Black history facts. We know that Black history is currently under attack in certain areas, and there's a reason why it's under attack. Some don't want us to know our history, and that is not just being malicious, but for a specific attack on our education and knowledge of self and knowledge of our abilities and knowledge of our ability to unify around a particular issue. One of the things that we started at NBCI Trust was the Protect Black History Initiative. Number one, we already do workshops on mis and disinformation and are a part of mis and disinformation coalitions to help to warn Black communities about what is happening. We also have a Black disinformation fact sheet. With the Black History Initiative, we have sent thousands of dollars worth of books to partners in Florida, so that these books can go to Black children at festivals and in schools, and some that are homeschooled and some that are in churches. So these are some of the things that we are doing. But I think I will end there. I'm surprised I didn't go over 1 o'clock, but yes, there's so much to be said about the reparations movement, disinformation, and cross-cultural unity, and we just all have to stay informed about what's happening online. I
Thank you
will
so much,
stop
Jim.
sharing my screen if I can.
No problem at all. There were a couple of questions about the recording. There will be a recording. It will be sent out by early next week. And Jim, if you don't mind, do you mind sharing the slides with us as well? Is that possible?
Yeah, I can email it to you after this.
Wonderful. You're receiving a round of applause from folks. Feel free, folks, to continue that energy.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. 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 You came so correct. Ah, we need 90 minutes when a person is bringing the fire from the mountain. I'm just saying we need to ask for permission from our colleagues to have an hour and a half lunch break when someone like beloved John comes, because the fire that they're bringing, there's not enough time. There's not enough time. Thank you. Thank you for the fire.
Thank you.
I would like, if you have opportunity, to send me the sources of those articles. I really would appreciate that. And then
Okay.
I'd like to invite you to Evergreen State College when we have our Founders Day, to come and have some conversation around the misinformation and disinformation, because you will be in the land of disinformation and misinformation, which is, this is Bill Gates land. Okay, come on, bring the fire to the hole.
Mhm.
So I give you that open invitation.
Okay, I'll be there.
My sister, wonderful presentation. I want to add, along with beloved Valerie and some Alicia's request for the presentation. And when you send the slides, also if you could send the resources that you recommended, and even if you have a list of children's books you recommend, I may be interested in just purchasing a few to disseminate to children in my community. But I don't have any kids or grandkids or even really children in our family. So, but there are children in some of the groups that I'm involved in.
Okay, so I'll remember to do that. Let me make a note.
Because the freedom schools and programming for our children to make up for the gaps in education has been on my mind, and that's not my skill set, but I would like to plant that seed for people who can do that work, because we the dumbing down of Black people about our history is just heartbreaking to me. So, but I'm not going to rant about that. Thank you. Wonderful information. Very rich presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beloved John, our brother, beloved Richard Aiwuyor, has a freedom school that he's been running for 6 years in Ouida, which is the shore of no return. Mm-hmm. Not just the door of no return. And he has similar challenges that you have spoken to, which is the miseducation, the misinformation. And so he uses, not use, I don't like that word because it's white slave word, but he allows for the energies of transformation while bringing children and their parents into a space and place where they think they're learning English so they can make some money and sky up out of there. But when he gets them there, he does the so-called bait and switch, which is what Fannie Lou Hamer did. This is what Victoria Adams Gray did, where they taught our folks how to vote and how to understand what was the misinformation that was the miseducation education. So, beloved brother Gerard Ishard is on the call here. I hope y'all reach out to each other. I just want to let you know, okay?
Okay, will do. I see Roxanne Blanchard has her hand raised.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. You know, they say if you want to hide something, put it in a book. That's the facts. That's where we at in 2023. But I was wondering if you had any thoughts. I had 2 wonderful weeks of not centering mutants. I call them mutants because I don't think they got souls. And really just being able to do some deep thinking and really just not having the anxiety. What are some ways that we can, as a group, as a community, not centering the nonsense that keeps us distracted, but really get into some deep thinking about strategic ways to just keep moving forward? Because that's where the fear comes from. That's where the hate comes from. That's where all of the centering, we keep centering cancer. Absolutely, beloved Valerie. We keep centering the very thing that is causing us to stumble and fall back instead of centering the thing that's going to move us forward.
I agree with that. And I think that goes back to like my next to last slide on the education component, because that's really about the re-education of ourselves. I don't know how many of y'all know of Dr. Mwalimu Shuja, but he was my first teacher in Africana Studies, and he wrote a book called Too Much Schooling, Too Little Education, about how children of African descent, you know, they go through the school system. It doesn't really teach them much about themselves. And he really focused on the recentering of self, the recentering of the African identity, the Pan-African world, the recentering of our own thoughts. We get disconnected, like you were saying, from ourselves by centering like the disease. But like a lot of his work is about, when we talking about education, or when I'm talking about education, it's about ourselves. And that's what is being used against us right now, because so many of in our community have not been taught these things. So when people are told, oh, only us were enslaved in America, and they don't know about the African Americans that live in Trinidad whose ancestors were, oh yes, another good book recommendation, whose ancestors were enslaved in the United States. They don't know about Sierra Leone, don't know about Liberia, don't know about the fact that so many of our Gullah Geechee ancestors were moved to Barbados, and the Bajans is Gullah, and we have these cross-cultural connections that people don't know or understand. And it takes a long time to kind of undo the miseducation that doesn't tell the robust history of who we are and the interconnections. So it's easy to kind of get us at each other's throats sometimes, because people genuinely do not know. And that's how it's used against us to misinform. So when I'm talking about that education, I'm talking about the education of ourselves. So that is a really good point.
Don't go. Don't leave. I know we got to go, but don't go.
Are there any more questions for beloved John?
You self-publish, yes?
I do both. So
Okay.
I mostly self-published my own my children's books, but I have a book coming out with an actual publisher in February next year. And it's a book of quotes and chapters about what the quotes mean. It's called Black Voices, Inspiring and Empowering Quotes from Global Thought Leaders. So it's from folks from all over the Pan-African world, but that one I'm not self-publishing. That one is being done through a publisher.
Thank you. The reason why I asked that and what I want to lift that up is that we mainstream press has no interest in us except for foils in the age-old narratives about the white lie. And so what we have always done when we came here, when we were beating drums to tell our own narrative to the newspapers, to the outside of the commodification, self-publishing is not a dirty word. Mm-hmm. We had, well, I'll just give you just one simple example. During the O.J. Simpson trial, one of my research projects is I looked at the Korean Times, the LA Sentinel, and the LA Times and the New York Times to cover how they covered the trial procedural from the beginning of the trial to the acquittal, to see how it was. So we must always understand that self-publishing is not a dirty word. It is not an also ran. It is part of the arsenal. So thank you, Jam, for doing both and sharing that with me. I'm lifting up what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see Alicia Warren.
Yes. I simply want to say thank you so much for this vital, piercing information that you've shared with us today. It's something that I've always felt has been going on, but I could not put my finger on it. And I don't use social media because I don't trust social media. But I'm asking you, in your publications, is there a section on our personal development, how we need to come to grips with who we are as an individual, just one person, and then realize the strengths that we have in that one personality, and so it can connect with other personalities. So what I keep teaching and keep talking about now is that you must go back. We keep going around in circles, and we talk about the things that are happening that are just hardening, but we don't come to a concentric point to say, what are we going to do about it? What will it take? What will it take from us to combat or to overcome these things that are really haunting us? And so I'm looking at personal development. What is that strength in you that keeps you going, that will help you to do what you need to do? And then so you can connect that with your brother and your sister. And we keep it going until we have enough of us collected who are strong enough in ourselves to know what to do and how to stop going around in circles and keep complaining. I was on a session last night, and it was a beautiful session about religion, white supremacy, and religion. And we ended up talking about it's in the family who does this and who doesn't, and it does not come to the point where, what are you going to do about it? What is there in you? And I know I'm going on and on, but I'm really fired up now. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. And now I'm really convinced that what I'm feeling is really what is happening. Thank you so much. I want to hear some more from you, more and more and more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, brothers and sisters.
And thank you so much for that comment. I have written somewhat about like some journal articles about this, but I'm hoping to be able to turn this material into a book. And I do think it will be good to include a section on both personal and community development to help with this type of issue. I did see a comment on what do we do? Hope isn't a strategy, and that is so true. And I want you to know that on this particular issue with the mis and disinformation targeting Black communities, there are a number of Black collective organizations that are working on this. We weren't the only ones working on this. Like I posted Shireen, her organization. There were other groups led by mostly Black women and Black men scholars that were investigating and interrogating how disinformation. They've written these articles. They have spoken in front of Congress. They have challenged social media platforms to force them to take down some of these accounts. So it isn't that nothing is happening. Stuff is happening, and we're getting ready for 2024. So Lord knows how that's gonna go. But there's disinformation, both public facing organizations and some that are private that are working on different things behind the scenes.
Yes. One last comment. I hope I'm not being too intrusive. One last comment. I try to get people to see, you go out and you say you've got a lot of behavior problems in your schools. So you're going to get a cadre of counselors to help work with the students. But you're not understanding that whoever's in that cadre, what kind of attitude do they have about our students? How are they personally developed before they stand in front of those young folks? What do they think about them? And so if there's some kind of way that we could, I know it's a big task to and it may not be, I'm not daunted, because I know we can do what we need to do because of what is in us. If we could do something about having professional development include personal development, so that when those folks stand in front of our kids, they see them as who they are. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is it Jam or is it John? How do you pronounce?
Who, me?
Yes.
It's Jam, because I have a
Jam.
long name. It's Jessica Ann Mitchell. I'm named after Lord, granddaddy, grandmama. God. So it's Jam Aiwuyor.
Thank you so much, Jam. We greatly appreciate your time, your offering today. Was really looking forward to this experience, and I'm so completely fulfilled and satisfied, and look forward to imparting this knowledge to the people in my circles and beyond. So thank you. The last announcement, tomorrow, our next Soul Sovereignty series event will be the Pendleton Live Q&A. We're still confirming a couple of things. So just putting it out there, it may not happen. We're still trying to finalize and make sure that, the institution is actually available and nothing comes up and pops up and prevents us from doing that. But if that's the case, you'll receive notice no later than tomorrow morning about that. And we'll still have our Soul Solidarity panel on Thursday, as well as the Dopest Death screening. So if we can just give Jam one more round of applause. Give thanks, many, many thanks.
Thank you so much.
Jam, may I send you my email?
Sure.
Thank you.
And once Jam sends the resources to me, I will be sure to include that in a follow-up email, likely at the conclusion of the Soul Sovereignty series, which will include all of the recordings and resources that our wonderful speakers have offered.
Thank you.
Do you
Thank
have an
y'all.
agent, Jam?
Yes.
Okay. Could you send that to me
In the email?
in the chat?
Okay.
And then Jam has put her email address. And so thank y'all very much for today's session. Appreciate y'all. Look forward to seeing y'all again.
Thank
Y'all stay
you.
blessed.
Peace and blessings, everyone.
Peace and blessings.
Thank you.
Happy belated birthday.
Is that for me?
Well,
If you are who I think you are, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. It is me.
Happy birth on the earth.
Thank you so much.
I have to say, beloved Jim, yesterday was dynamite when it came to starting us off. And then I don't know what you did. Or you just supernova. This brother Jabari, beloved Jabari, has just, and all the people who co-manifested this soul sovereignty, it's just been with great anticipation and bated breath from yesterday to today. And so I thank Brother Jabari, beloved Jabari, and I thank all of the work that's seen and unseen that's being done by Community Healing Network. Thank you.
Ashe.
Thank you.
Much gratitude.
And Prophet Cox, we met in Virginia, yes, last week, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I thought I said, I know her. Okay, thank you for that information.
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. Happy to hear y'all met in person. I'm still waiting for that, Prophet.
Well, I tell everybody, don't talk about nobody because you don't know who people are, where they've been, or who they're going to see. I mean, you look so beautiful. You look exactly the same on screen as you do in person. So very, very good to hear you speak.
Thank
Blessings,
you.
everyone. And good
Blessings.
work, Jabari, for all that you're doing.
Many thanks.
Excellent.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna get off now. I'm gonna go eat some crab before I have to pick these kids up.
You enjoy that. That sounds really good.
You know, that
Okay.
wasn't right.
Oh, you vegan?
No, I'm over here in
I am
the
though.
Northwest and I want some.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm in Maryland. I'm about
You
to
doing
get
the
some
bus
crab.
Oh, yeah.
No.
That's the culture right there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much
I'll
for
enjoy.
inviting me, Jabari. I really appreciate it. Nice meeting you in Atlanta, and I'm glad this all came together.
Same here. I look
I'll
forward
be
to keeping
connecting
in
with you,
touch.
Miss Hunt. Okay. Y'all have a good day.
Yeah, y'all too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Peace.